In this episode of our three-part series on identity, belonging, and covenant, we are going to be talking about belonging. What does it mean to belong to a Jewish community or the Jewish people? Stay tuned. Shalom Mishpacha. Welcome back to A Small Sanctuary with Rabbi Esther, and I am here to pick up where we left off last time. I've been out of commission a little bit because of illness and, living on the apocalyptic ice planet of the Midwest. I don't think my kids have had much school since school started again. It's been really cold and icy here and beautiful, and also very, very cold. Highly do not recommend stepping outside of your front door right now. All that being said, I am back and here to talk about belonging. I started this series to try and uncover what it means to be a Jew in our world today and belong to the Jewish collective, and how some of these big ideas about how we internalize our sense of Jewishness and how we connect with other Jews and how we think of our Jewishness in more transcendental terms, existential terms, vis-a-vis the divine. I want to bring all of these elements together in this series. So previously I have done an introductory episode, and you can watch that because it kicks off the whole series. And I've done the series on identity, and with identity I talked a lot about identity versus status, i.e. what does it mean to feel Jewish, and what does it mean to have Jewish status according to certain communal definitions. But we've already done that. I will link the video so that you can look it up yourself. But right now I am going to talk about belonging. And I talked earlier in this series that these three values or three phenomena kind of correspond to these three spiritual ideas that exist in the Jewish tradition. That we have a covenant or a relationship through ourselves, Bein Adam La'atzmo, which is identity, through each other, Bein Adam L'Chavaro, that is the community of belonging, and through the bigger idea, the transcendent idea, the divine, Bein Adam Lamakom, between us and the omnipresent. This is episode number 2. So once you've established that you feel Jewish inside, and what do you actually do next? How do you start to belong to a Jewish community? And what are some of the opportunities and the challenges and the realities of belonging to a Jewish community? And that is what I want to talk about today. And often for people who are coming in from the outside, maybe they were Jewish but they didn't grow up belonging to a Jewish community, or maybe they weren't Jewish and they're on their journey becoming Jewish or have recently become Jewish. What actually is Jewish community? If you see Judaism as a civilizational religious project, there are many ways you can belong in relationship to other Jews. Synagogues are, of course, the structure which we have utilized for over 2,000 years to create Jewish community. But synagogues aren't the only way you can belong to Jewish community. So I just want to unpack that idea a little bit and then come back to synagogues, and I'm going to make my pitch for why synagogues are amazing ways to build community. First of all, there are so many digital options these days. There's this whole phenomenon which we in the Jewish community jokingly call Jewbook, aka Facebook, but social media, blogs, websites, podcasts, online learning opportunities are exploding everywhere in the Jewish world, and they are a great way to find your way in. There are designated Facebook groups and other platforms that allow people to explore Judaism and ask questions, and there are entire online communities of learning and worship that you can access quite easily as well. And a hybrid model is actually a good way to start. If you have as a future objective that you want to go to a physical community, but you're not quite ready yet, check out their online offerings first. A lot of synagogue communities will live stream or Zoom their services, and it is a great way to kind of stick your toe in without being too intimidated. There are also loads of learning opportunities online. This could be online introduction to Judaism programs. It could be through outreach organizations like 18 Doors, or knowledge-based organizations like myjewishlearning.com, or online yeshivas like the Yeshiva from the good folks at Judaism Unbound. Of course, you can learn with Yeshivat Hadar, Machon Hadar. They also have an excellent podcast, and I just don't even know where to start with all of the recommendations for digital Jewish engagement. Just know that if you see Jewish belonging as a series of gates you can go through, the digital gate is the easiest door to find, and I really encourage you to find it. Now that you've done that, what is actually next? There are loads of in-person opportunities for engaging with Jewish community. In geographical locations where there is more Jewish life, you have things like JCCs, Jewish Cultural Centers, federations often offer programming as well, and other opportunities like that. But of course, you also have your trusted, friendly neighborhood synagogue. Synagogues are basically both the first entry point and the last option in many cases. In communities that don't have the demographic heft to offer all of the auxiliary services like federations and JCCs and things like that, there will pretty much be a synagogue in every town or a town over. Are there parts of the United States that have no synagogues at all? Of course, there are. And then those digital offerings are a good solution. But in many urban areas, you can find a synagogue. For the global perspective, it is a bit more complicated because there aren't always Jewish communities in high density across the world. And I refer you either to the denominational websites to see if there are congregation finders that can lead you to an option, or contacting such organizations like kulanu.org, all of us, that's what the name means, and they can connect you to Jewish communities around the world as well. So why am I such a fan of synagogues? Well, I am of course completely biased because I work for a synagogue. I lead a synagogue, so obviously I'm going to make this pitch. But I really see synagogues as incubators of civic consciousness, of mutual aid, of communal solidarity, and of Jewish diversity. They are places that offer, of course, spiritual resources like worship services and learning opportunities, but they actually offer a lot more than that. My synagogue offers a lot of cultural and social programming as well, opportunities for tikkun olam, for repairing the world, for social justice and charity-based engagement. And so synagogues are kind of microcosms of what Jewish life can be and how you can access it. Synagogues also have experts on staff, like educators, cantors, rabbis, administrators, executive directors, people who are quote unquote professional Jews and know how to deal sensitively with what it means to approach a community and seek belonging. Now, that doesn't mean that every community always gets it right, or that there are never any issues. Overall, most synagogues are very much interested in helping people find their place of belonging. Synagogues are also intergenerational and internally diverse. They facilitate an encounter with different kinds of Jews and Jewish adjacent folks on different terms. You're going to meet people who are not your age, not of your political bent, not of your socio-economic class. And I actually think that's really healthy. Learns to build relationships and appreciate each other. Particular interest groups can kind of silo you a little bit. And while synagogues often do have interest groups to cater to your individual needs, they also make a pitch for a broad-based engagement that allows you to connect on a much deeper level with the other people in your community. How do you approach a synagogue? So this is something that comes up a lot in rabbinic contact with the outside world. It's one of the questions I get a lot when people make inquiries at a synagogue. Is there some super special secret way that you should be approaching a synagogue? And the answer is no, just approach a synagogue. Be aware that many synagogues may have some kind of security and safety protocols in place. So it is wise to call or email ahead to inquire what they need from you in order to make this a welcoming and optimal experience. But do not let that be a deterrent. As you know, as we all know, anti-Semitism is on the increase, unfortunately, and we Jewish communities have to keep ourselves safe. It also helps just to reach out to the communal leadership. It could be the rabbi, the cantor, it could even be the office team, who also have a lot of great knowledge on making you feel welcome and directing you to what you need. You can also reach out to the lay leadership. They're often listed on the synagogue website as well. If you feel a little bit uncertain on how to approach the synagogue, there are questions you can ask to make yourself feel more grounded. Like, is there a certain dress code or expectation around dress? What is the culture of the synagogue? What are the worship services like? What is the denominational affiliation of the synagogue? What does the synagogue do to make newcomers feel welcome? What are some of the outreach programs of the synagogue? If I choose to convert or investigate conversion, then what can the synagogue offer me in terms of an introduction to Judaism program? How can I best conduct myself in the space should I choose to visit? I don't think there's anything wrong with asking those questions. You don't have to ask those questions, but if you're wondering like, well, I don't really know, I've never been in this space before, those questions can help you teach a little bit about a synagogue's culture in advance and make you feel a little bit more secure as you engage with the community. Most synagogues are really friendly, and also a lot of synagogues, the regulars are not always aware what a challenge it can be to enter a new synagogue space. So it's really okay to say, can somebody sit with me during my first couple of services? I don't know the liturgy and I don't know what to expect, and it would be really helpful if someone would talk me through that. That is a perfectly reasonable request to make. You can also communicate with the leadership without immediately committing to visit. If you are interested in Judaism, you might say, do you have a book or podcast recommendation for me? How can I advance my further learning before I actually stick my toe in and come to the synagogue itself? It's really okay to kind of build a gentle on-ramp for yourself to find out something about the community specifically, or about the Jewish community and Jewish tradition writ large, before you take that first step, because it will make you feel more secure. Why is Jewish belonging so important? There's this quip that we rabbis often use, that you can't be Jewish on your own. There are sacred practices in the world that are quite solitary, or even if they're not solitary, they can be highly individualized. Judaism is not like that. The Jewish community is very, very much centered on community life, community activity, engagement, and the feeling of mutual solidarity. In the Talmud, this is described as Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh. All of the Jewish people are responsible for each other. And we take that very seriously in the Jewish community. And the net benefit of that is that we have these really close-knit, cohesive, warm, thick Jewish communities that can feel incredibly welcoming and warm. The downside of that is that it's also a little bit hard to penetrate, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming if you're trying to find your way into a Jewish communal institution or build new community with new Jewish friends. So this is how I often describe it. Some religions are peaches, other religions are coconuts. What do I mean by that? A peach religion has a soft and fuzzy outside. I wish I had a peach right now in my hands. And it's juicy and it's easy to access, but once you start drilling down a little deeper, you're going to hit a pretty hard, resistant core. That could be its theology, it could be a very exclusivist theology, a strongly proselytizing religion, for instance, really wants to pull you in, but once you're in that community, there are very rigid expectations of what you believe and how you live your life. Judaism is a coconut religion, so imagine a coconut. right here, in the sense that it's a hard exterior shell. That's a little hard to penetrate. You know, you need a little bit of a hammer and a nail situation to crack it open. But once you're past that initial barrier, it's actually very sweet and fluid and juicy and easy on the inside. But getting to that point might be a little bit of a challenge. But once you're at that point, it is a very accepting and embracing place to be. As I was saying, Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Bazeh. The entire Jewish people is responsible for each other. And there are even mitzvot that we can't fulfill unless we have each other to help us fulfill those commandments. And you will often find that when you do belong or find your way into a Jewish community, that kind of everyone knows everyone. We call this Jewish geography. And it can be a little bit intimidating because what if you don't know everyone or even anyone? Can you even belong? And I think the secret to all of these things is time and confidence. It's really okay for you to say, you know what? There's a whole set of assumptions about who I am and what I do and where I belong, but I'm still figuring this stuff out, and that's really okay. Or, you know, I didn't grow up like this, or I don't have those communal connections, and that is okay too. It's really okay to assert your own dignity and to approach this with an open, curious mind. The second thing is, of course, time. The more time you spend immersed in Jewish community, the easier it will be to get to know people, to build those connections, and to make yourself part of it. I like talking in terms of a memory bank, and this is actually not my idea. I'm going to quote this in the name of Rabbi Susan Leider, who was a rabbi who taught me at rabbinical school, B'Shem Omra. In her name, I teach this. She would talk about building up your memory bank. And this memory bank will facilitate your sense of belonging in the Jewish community. So imagine you have a piggy bank and you insert a coin every time. And instead of coins, you are inserting memories, Jewish experiences that you build up year after year after year, or even week after week after week. And you keep on putting them in, building up your capital, so to say, in your memory bank. And then eventually you start making withdrawals on that memory bank. You will notice that, oh, I've been keeping Shabbat or engaging with Shabbat for X amount of weeks, for X amount of months or years. This is starting to feel familiar. And because of the cycle of the Jewish year, you will revisit core themes, core practices, core communal engagements every year. And ding, 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 you can log that into your memory bank. So if you think about it that way, it actually helps create a little bit of patience, because instead of just thinking, well, I feel inadequate because I've never done this before, I've never experienced this before, it allows you to be a little bit more relaxed and say, you know what? I just need to build up this memory bank and it's going to be okay. I might not know something now, but I will know it and experience it and re-experience it in the future. And even after decades of living in Jewish community or experiencing Jewish community and Jewish ritual life or the sacred cycle of the year, you still will continue building up your memory bank. And once you get a little bit of distance from it, it's so wonderful, because you'll see like, oh, actually I have been here before. And now I have my own memories and experiences to draw on. Concluding thoughts. Yes, belonging to each other, getting to know your fellow Jews and those who are our fellow travelers on the Jewish road, whether it's friends or family members or people who are spiritually seeking or who are Jewish adjacent or Jew curious. Building community is really, really key and really central to the Jewish experience. And the paradox that we hold is that it's both a little bit difficult sometimes, but also incredibly rewarding at the same time. And it's really okay to not be alone with your thoughts or your struggles or even your sense of alienation. You can approach Jewish institutions and ask for help. That's what we're here for. Every rabbi here is here to help people find their sense of belonging with Jewish community. do not hesitate to ask. I think there's a lot of mythology and misconception about Jewish community out there, and sometimes people have difficult experiences because human beings are human beings, and religious communities can be difficult spaces sometimes. But resolving for yourself, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for financial aid. It's okay to ask for mentorship. It's okay to ask to find your way in different ways. We in the Jewish world are generally just delighted to have more people connect with us and find their way in. And you will be surprised how quickly you can make friends and find points of connection with other people. What if being in Jewish community is difficult for whatever reason? Maybe you don't feel aligned spiritually, ideologically, philosophically. Maybe you feel out of step in terms of the demographic of a given community. These are all realistic scenarios, and that does happen. And it's also really okay to take your distance from it sometimes and think, well, you know, I just need to decompress and be my own person and figure this stuff out and see if I want to come back to it, or maybe find another community that suits my needs better too. I actually think it's really important for Jewish clergy to make the point that while we are inclined to want to be inclusive and welcoming and build up Jewish community, the agency and empowerment of the individual should come first. It is your life and your journey, and it needs to feel right for you. So I hope this is helpful. Feel free to drop down questions down below if you have specific questions about Jewish belonging, Jewish community, Jewish identity, intersecting with how we relate to each other, the thick Jewish culture that exists, and all of the resources that are out there. Don't hesitate to drop some comments or questions down below. And then for the final installment in this series, we are going to look at covenant, at how we as Jews interface with the transcendent or the eternal or the divine. So stay tuned for that one. It's nice to be back, and I look forward to the next episode. If you like this kind of content, you know what to do. Hit the notification bell, subscribe, like, share, all of that good stuff, and that way I can continue growing my channel and delivering fact-based, accurate, inclusive, rabbinically sound Jewish content on the internet here that is going to make your life purposeful, beautiful, and meaningful. Thank you, friends. Shalom uvracha, with peace and blessings from my bite to your bite. Bye.